So we're going to go right to the session here. This one is called Digital Storytelling in a Multi-Platform World. So in this room today, we've tackled education and healthcare. It's been pretty serious, pretty heavy stuff. We're going to have some fun now, hopefully a little bit with some storytelling. The idea is when you have a question, just show your hand and I'll get the microphone to you and you can ask your question. But I'm going to first introduce the panelists very quickly. And I don't know the order they're in, so you have to show your hand when I say your name. Maximiliano Vaccaro is with Digital Media Director with Discovery Communications. Pablo Locoviello. How'd I do? Locoviello?
Jacobiello. That's fine.
With, where am I? Acquisition Director from Claro Video. Rene Rodriguez is there with VP Digital for Viacom. And Agustin Gomez with President I2Think. Is that how you want?
One2Think.
One2Think. Okay. And then our moderator for today, the only one who's not raised his hand, is in the middle. His name is Amaury Blondet, and he's the Digital Media Manager for Discovery Communications. I'm going to turn it over to Amaury.
Great. Well, we're very glad you're here. My name is Amaury Blondet again. I'm going to be the moderator today. We're going to be talking about digital storytelling and what that means in this multi-platform world. Before we start, I just want to say thank you to eMERGE. This is a great opportunity, a great conference. It opens a lot of doors, not only for the ones here in this panel, but for you, for the next generations here in Miami. And it's very important that we support them. Also, you are going to be kind of making history because we're going to do the panel in Spanish. No, not really. Rene said no, so we won't do it.
Starting, aren't you?
Yeah. Today, we're going to stories or narrative have been shared in every culture as means of entertainment, education, cultural preservation, and instilling moral values for thousands of years. In this new age, digital and social, stories are often presented in compelling, interactive, and emotionally engaging formats. So today we're going to discuss the importance of storytelling in this multi-platform world, as well as the benefits of telling great stories for content producers, distributors, advertisers, and users. I'm going to let the team here present themselves and also kind of let us know what's the role of digital storytelling in your respective positions.
Oh, no.
Please,
so,
be my guest.
Yeah, Pablo.
Okay, I'm the last one in the chain, but I'm a buyer. I buy content for América Móvil. It's one of the biggest telcos in the world. We have a strong presence in Latin America in cable, broadband, and mobile. In the last couple of years, we turned into this media. América Móvil turned into the media world. So they acquired the company that I used to work for, that I work for actually, and we are building the over-the-top service for them. So this is what we're doing. We are buyers. The buyer for this big telco.
So my name is Rene Rodriguez. I am responsible for a number of areas at Viacom in Latin America. Actually, across the Americas, I actually oversee the U.S. Hispanic market and then dabble in Canada when I find the time to do so. So I'm responsible for a couple of areas: the production of our websites, responsible for the social media strategy at Viacom across all of our brands, and the brands include MTV, Nickelodeon, Comedy Central, VH1. I also oversee our mobile apps business, both on the branded app side and on the gaming side. And then I also have the pleasure of working with telcos, such as Pablo's. I'm responsible for the digital distribution of all of our content across the affiliate ecosystem. So whether that's over-the-top services or affiliates that are interested in acquiring content for catch-up services or free VOD, I equally oversee that as well. So from a digital storytelling perspective, I'm quite on many different touch points. And obviously the end game for us is to make sure that we are touching the consumer touch points with engagement, with compelling content, and making sure that the user experiences are something that the users ultimately do find engaging.
Great. Agustin?
Well, my name is Agustin Gomez Vega. I've been working more than 10 years helping media companies tell stories. I run 4 different agencies, 3 in South America and 1 here in Miami, with different, each one works a different part of the storytelling process. And actually, our role is like help our clients tell their stories. This is what we do in different stages of the process.
Great, thanks.
My name is Maximiliano Vaccaro. I'm a digital media director for Discovery Networks Latin America. We handle websites, apps, and now we're moving towards develop TV everywhere products for Discovery Networks in Latin America, Brazil, and the US Hispanic markets. And working as Discovery, which is the #1 non-fiction media company in the world, and the new mandate that we are going to have, it's not only for TV, it's going to be a multi-platform. It's always a challenge. Working for Discovery, stories embed in our DNA, so we read story, and every single day it's a challenge and new ways to tell this story to multiple targets and platforms. So it's a really good time to come, because as moving on the new environment of products and platforms, it's going to be super exciting for us.
Great. So we'll start for you, Maxi. The next question. What do you think about the concept of story or content is king?
Well, for me, content is king, story is the queen, and but nobody talk about the kingdom, and the kingdom is becoming bigger and bigger. When Bill Gates talk about this content is king, I believe back in 1996, basically was a king, was a small media companies, unidirectional communication, just we are spectators. Now it's less a monarchy and more a democracy. So I can say that content is president, story is the vice president, and the different platforms are the congressman. So, and we need to take care, because there's a lot of Frank Underwood around.
Wow.
But our challenge is to create kind of a democracy, so on content. So people have a lot of control of our content, a lot of touching points that we have not only from one side, but it's kind of a conversation. And I know it's someone that talk about social media, say it's a conversation, it's about the level of engagement. But for me, it's about to create community and an ecosystem of platform, people, and content. So that's my vision about that statement.
And you, Agustin, on the agency side, you working with Viacom, with Discovery, and some others. How do you see that? Because there are new technologies, but I know that still you need the power of a story. It doesn't matter if you have great technology. If you don't have a story, you have nothing. So.
Absolutely. I believe the first, content is king is something that we already know, and it's been here for around 10 years. But the thing is that during the last 10 years, we might say we've seen like companies like maybe Apple or Disney that take care that much in the process of the storytelling, that people is getting used to have these great stories, and people can really spot right now when the storytelling process is not taken care of properly. So the first thing we always tend to work with our clients is to have like a great story and work on the story before we start any project. I mean, without story, we don't have any project to work on.
That's great. I don't know if you want to add something to that.
Me or Pablo?
Either one.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Bill Gates might have been talking about content is king, but it was actually Sumner Redstone, the founder of Viacom, that actually coined the phrase "content is king." And Viacom, thank you.
Yeah, now we all remember.
Thank you. Exactly. And so content is in fact king, and that's something that we obviously stand by and live by every day at Viacom. And I think that's actually. It fulfills its story by working with people like DLA and Pablo at DLA and Claro Video. Netflix as an example, Amazon as an example, spend a lot of money acquiring content to basically be able to provide compelling services to hook people into their revenue streams. So it's obviously the content. The usability of a particular service is great. The user interface of that particular service is fantastic and it's important. But ultimately, it's the content that makes the difference in whether that service is going to work for a client or not. From a brand perspective, content is king. Also from a linear side, and obviously my job is to make sure that we're amplifying that story across all of our digital platforms. The other important part of storytelling is having iconic characters. And iconic characters as part of the storytelling obviously amplifies the story, primarily on linear first, and then we extend that through the digital platforms. In the case of MTV, we try to create a digital audience by way of making sure that we're putting content around music up on the site. We've dabbled in fashion. We've done things on pop culture news. We try to create a millennial destination online. But the large majority of all of our content really stems from supporting the linear channel. Roughly about 40% of all of our content viewed online still is tied directly to linear. So in cases where we're focusing on digital and trying to create specific digital stories there, it really still first and foremost and primarily is focusing on amplifying the story across the linear channels for our brands.
Yeah, and Pablo, I know that you have a different perspective of this multi-platform storytelling. Can you add, so we can expand a bit, of how storytelling has changed with the penetration of mobile devices?
Yeah, I mean, first, I like the thing that Maxi said, that content used to be
the government.
Yeah, no, he paid me to say that. No, he said this thing that is not a, I mean, used to be a king, now is a president. And in the platforms like ours, like the over-the-top platform, when the user has a control. So I think it used to be a king, now is the president. People have to vote for it. And people are starting to use this vote. I mean, you can see people control when to see it, where to see it, when they want to see it. So the linear channel has this important thing to bring that to you and to offer it to you and to bring the first move, to do the first move. But then the user is coming back. And the challenge for us, I mean, we as buyers, we have to find the story that makes sense for the user, which you don't know until they vote. So you have to start offering things that you think are going to work, and they might work or not. And then we have to make it work, which is more like an operational challenge. But then we have to make it work with everybody, with the mobile business, with the broadband business, with the cable business, and try not to step on anything and try to offer something that the user wants to vote for. So for us, I said like 5 times, it's a huge challenge to make it work. But we are starting with baby steps. We started with things like, we started partnering with Viacom and trying to offer a series together and to promote and to do stuff in our social media, in their social media, in marketing. So we're trying to start to move everything, but it's not easy.
If I may touch on that, and so Pablo touches on a really great point. So we work together in collaboration with one of our local productions, Niñas Maltul, where DLA, or Claro Video, rather, was responsible for basically the first window of the content. So they got all premiering episodes 7 days before it went to linear. And then we ran on linear channel, and then we ran a catch-up service 24 hours after it ran on air through 7 days on our website. So we went premiere digital, linear, catch-up digital as well. And so you can just see the transition and the migration of that storytelling, right? So it's talking about really, again, the digital platforms, and there is a lot of complexity in how you migrate and make sure the story's consistent, but overall leveraging these digital platforms just to amplify. And in some cases, I believe digital actually drove the linear viewing rather than linear viewing driving digital.
Great. And what's the role of social media in all this?
Agustin?
Well, I mean, it's not just social media. I mean, we have lots of platforms nowadays. But regarding social media, it's a great example. picking up from René Niñas Maldos last year, to keep amplifying the story and the storytelling. What we created was one of the characters in the novella was like this haughty girl, and what we created was a Tumblr account for this girl, and this girl was like taking herself selfies and uploading them at the same time the novella was airing, and that was a really great example. I mean, we had lots of traffic there. We also had advertisers there too. And the thing was that we were able to share the appropriate content in the appropriate platform. I mean, people were interacting with that character in real time in the platform where they were. I mean, they were with their phones, and that character was in their homepage of Tumblr, as they have many other friends or people that they follow. So I think that nowadays we have lots of platforms, and we need to think we need to use the exact one for the target and the story, because people is there and they want to consume it.
Yeah, and also it's I like to use the terminology OTS, basically objective, target, and strategy. It's the kind of a basic stuff. Is what, where, and when you need to develop that content. So, for example, it's not only mobile, it's not only social media, it's, for example, the use of tablets, it's more in the morning and at night, mobile is during the day, computer is during a job, so you need to tackle specific platforms with the specific content, and the time of consumption of that content varies depending on the platform. So it's a really complex environment. It's not that to create just a linear story anymore. There's multiple touch points across, so you need to think how create those layers of the story, because probably you are going to have different target depending on the platform that they're consuming your content. So it's not simple anymore, and it's challenging again. And then I believe there's a lot of opportunities on content development moving forward. There's more related with content. People need to be specialized on content and create those different levels of layers and design kind of an ecosystem where everybody have their role and everybody can consume the content in the right moment and the right place. So it's tough, but it's good times to come.
Great. Agustin, all these three companies are mostly video-centric, so I'm not going to ask them. In terms of product, meaning video, games, interactives, and all that, what do you think is better, or when do you think it's good to use one or another?
Well, I think the perfect story surfaces in the moment you cross the story with the appropriate target and the appropriate platform. I mean, right now, I mean, working for different companies, it's different I mean, we change our hats, and it's different when we're thinking for Discovery, and it's different when we're thinking for Viacom. In some cases, we know we're talking to millennials, and it's like a completely different world, and we know that we have them all day in their phones and consuming in a way. And then when we think on the other side, we focus on another kind of people that are more curious and are trying to find. So what we need to do, and what everyone that is in this business needs to do, is to pick all those tools that you have in front of you and choose which is the exact one that you need to tell your story. I mean, it's not that it's a fixed formula where you say, okay, in this case it's going to be a game, and in this case it's going to be a video. I mean, it has to do with the story and the creativity. And I think that all these platforms has become a kind of commodity, and all networks have like their social media managers, and everyone has a Facebook page and a Twitter page. The thing is how we deal with them to create a story.
Great. And now I'm going to talk business. So I'll start with you. How can we make money with digital storytelling, how we bring
This is why we have
advertisers.
distributors.
So how do we do that? How can content providers and distributors can start making money, bringing advertisers?
Do you mind if I jump to the previous question and then answer
Sure.
that question? Just only because this is an interesting challenge for Viacom, right? So from an MTV perspective, some of the products that work really well are the interactives, where we get people to vote, like the very crazy, like silly things that you think that wouldn't drive a lot of traffic are in fact the things that drive a lot of traffic to support the shows. Or we also run something at the end of the year where we basically run the best of for, I think you helped us build that, did you not? For every year. So we get a lot of interaction on voting, batallas and verses and all kinds of crazy things. One of the things that we're looking at, this is a challenge for Viacom, for MTV specifically, is for as great of a content company as we are challenged in creating digital-only specific content from time to time. Because a lot of the budgets, there is an emphasis on digital, but most of the budgets will go to linear. So what that presents for us is challenge creating content. So we are looking at social aggregation tools to basically aggregate social experiences on our website. So we would never say we're going to compete with the Twitter. We're never going to compete with the Facebook. We never would dare say that we're ever going to think that we're going to compete with YouTube in terms of views. But if we can aggregate content that basically combs the internet from these social areas, those are some of the interesting things that we're working on. It's a challenge for us. I'm bringing it up at this panel because I don't know if it's a challenge, not for you, challenge for you guys. But you know, those are some of the interesting products that at least we're looking at from what I call it a content social aggregation tool set. Nickelodeon is a different story. I mean, we put games up and kids, they're happy, right? We put videos up, they're happy, and from a product perspective,
You
you're
don't
right,
have
it's
kids,
all
right?
video. I don't have kids, so I don't have to worry about it. I've been told this is what makes kids happy. On the monetization side, since I'm responsible for the distribution of our content across all these linear platforms, clearly working with affiliate partners to enhance our digital portfolio and sell-through product is a significant focus for us. So we distribute our content right now through an SVOD window, which is typically 12 months and beyond when something airs after the linear channel. We are getting more heavily involved in catch-up services, selling free VOD-based services. I wouldn't say we're selling free VOD-based services, but we're giving that to affiliates as a way to complement and amplify the linear packages that we're selling. And then one of the more interesting things that we're working on that we believe is quite innovative is something that was born out of France. It is a product called Mon Nick Jr. And basically what it is, it's a linear channel that basically gives parents the ability to be able to program that channel specifically to certain criteria that they would want their children to learn. So, you know, we basically have psychologists come in and map some of our preschool content to specific learning themes, whether it's math, friendship, interesting things, and then a parent can go and program a channel, and out will spit a linear channel that's basically a playlist for VOD. We're rolling that out across all of across the globe. We've got implementation in London. We've got with Virgin Media. We've got one with Verizon. We're very heavily pursuing that I cannot talk about right now. Very heavily pursuing some deals in Latin America, but that is a big monetization opportunity for us. I'll finally say that on the video side, clearly video is what we're trying to monetize online. CPMs across all our display advertising are under a tremendous amount of pressure. There's a lot of pressure also because of these ad exchanges. So there's value in video right now, and there's also value in creating compelling interactive microsites that we think that sponsors can get behind as well.
And Pablo, that Claro Video has a couple of different models. You can.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I absolutely agree with what he just said. The problem is, you were. No, we found. I mean, I think the main problem is how to consolidate everything, how to make it work, because you have to find, like he said, we have to find the platform that works for the content. So we've been pitched a lot of ideas, products, stories that they just want to have this feel of multi-platform, but it doesn't make sense. So you have to really find something that makes sense. People won't watch in their cell phones or in their games because it's there. It has to make sense with the story. So the story is the real thing, is the thing that will lead something to be successful in every platform or not. There are like 100 of examples that make sense. Like what Fox did with, what MSC did with Walking Dead is really interesting. They have like these side stories in mobile, or the side stories in broadband, and you can choose what you want to see, and you complete the story. Or there was I was talking about it beforehand. In Israel, they did this really, really cool thing with Dory Media with First Love, which is like, it was the people were feeding back, but the story made sense. I mean, it's not like it's just Breaking Bad, and then people were coming back with YouTube experience about what they happened where they were cooking. The story has to make sense. So I feel that when you were asking how to monetize it, I would come back to the first thing is content is the president, and we have, when people vote, they vote with money. They come with their eyes, and the advertisement will come, and the buyers will buy.
And also, I believe one of the most important things in terms of multi-platform is when it's the authenticity of the content and how the natural relation of different audiences with that content. If you take, for example, NFL, advertising, beyond the Super Bowl, the advertising, the ads are really important, the halftime showing are really important, social media becoming huge, not only for the Super Bowl, but also for all the brands. And even the barbecue and the beer are organic for that. It's part of the story that you create. So why the Super Bowl works so good is because everything is natural. So as soon as we become the beer of the Super Bowl for other content that we develop, so it's going to become something interesting and generate a lot of engagement. So it needs to become some authentic and natural. So one of the things that we made on Discovery last year was a social TV experience. And it's basically a relation and social media relation with the show that you're seeing. And we have experts that interact with the audience. So there's a lot of conversations going on. But again, coming back to my point of the right target and the right objective, on Discovery Home and Health, which is a woman channel, tends to work really good. Why? Because it's organic. Women like to talk a lot and interact a lot. and yeah, that's true. And if you see Discovery Channel, for example, you see Bear Grylls and people say, wow, look these new shoes, or no, the men don't tend to talk about clothes, don't tend to talk about nothing. It's more, yeah, it's true. It's true.
Sport.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like that. You can sit with a friend like half an hour, no talking, and you're spending a really good time.
Yeah.
But thinking on a woman, not talking for about 10 minutes is gonna be hard, and it's not sexist. It's the reality.
Actually, in our service, the social media comes from kids and women. That's absolutely true. Yeah. Men are like more like sofa style. You just sit down and you just watch it. And I was like, you don't want to be.
So
it's teen,
I'm
tween.
keeping quiet.
Exactly.
I'm staying
out.
out.
I walk that way.
Yeah, because you are single, so you don't.
Yeah, you're always.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I was seeing that in that same area. I know that one of your
Give me
companies,
$20 when I'm done.
one of your companies want to think it's about branded content. Why branded content, and what's the importance of it for advertisers and clients?
Well, as Rene said, I mean the traditional media like the clicking banners and that stuff, it's going down. I mean, Google is like eating everything up. So I mean, no one in this room, I believe, clicks a banner unless it's like very, very targeted and says my name in it. So the thing is that advertisers are looking for new ways to engage with these people. And branded content, it's a great way to do it since it's like you are telling a story that is compelling for them, and then you're adding like the brand there as a kind of a sponsor, or they are learning something interesting about it. It was, I don't know, I believe it was like 2 or 3 years ago when we made something for Royal Caribbean in Discovery, where it was like the 10 amazing facts of the biggest ships in the world. And I mean, people were consuming a lot on that video that were explaining really, really curious facts about these huge ships that we see here in Miami. And 2 or 3 of those boats were from Royal Caribbean, and we added like a couple of names there, and that was the stuff. And that was everything that Royal Caribbean paid for it. I mean, and people were really, really engaged with the content, and they were really engaged with the brand, and they became some kind of brand ambassadors in the moment they start telling their friends that Royal Caribbean has this ship that has this amazing feature.
Because, again, feels authentic. It's the
Absolutely.
story tells about amazing facts about the ship. It's authentic.
I mean, no one is trying to sell you a vacation or stuff like that. I mean, it's not a banner that says click here and get 30% off. I mean, we're telling you that we have the most amazing ship. And that works. I mean, people want to know things. They don't want to buy things. I mean, they don't know they want to buy things.
Great.
They don't know.
Yeah, well, you have a couple of the more coolest and brilliant minds in digital storytelling here. We have a couple of minutes, so we want to open it for questions.
Here's a question here.
Hi, thank you so much for being here. This was really amazing. I think you're all amazing. So, and I'm in education. I work for Florida International University.
Don't talk too much.
Okay. No, but what I want to know is if
Let them
if
tell
you
their
could-
story.
No, if you could just tell us briefly how you got in the business, and what was the defining moment in getting you where you are today.
She's a friend, so I could tell that joke.
Yeah. No, my story is super long. I started studying engineering, then neurobiology. I came here, studied business, started working at the library, and then started learning at Discovery, and then I started working in content. But I think it's about finding something that you love, relate to something amazing, and just go for it. It could be a book, it could be a video, or just having a blog. I think they all have great stories.
Well, I started creating content for Discovery for the websites 13 years ago, when there were no Wikipedia, basically the internet was kind of a DSL. So in Argentina, back in Argentina. So I need to go to create, Discovery called me and said, I need to create content for Monday on Friday about the never seen before dinosaurs in America. So, okay, so I went to the library.
He went looking for a dinosaur.
Taking notes, because laptop was for rich people. So taking notes, come back and send the content. And
You send it with
and 3 years later, I used to be a creative director and graphic designer for advertising agencies. And then Discovery offered to come here, and I spent my last 10 years, wonderful years in Discovery.
In my case, I'm a graphic designer too, and I started working in Clarín in Argentina. It's one of the biggest media conglomerates in South America. And one day I was fed up with that, and I went out and created our own company, the first of them, and we started working a lot with advertising agencies. And by working with these advertising agencies here in Miami, we were running a big campaign on Discovery, and that's when we met with the Discovery guys, and we started learning about TV, because TV is like a really complicated business where you have many clients into the business, and you know how to treat them well. And then we were getting more and more into the TV business, and we made a spin-off. We opened a TV consulting company for digital media, and here we are.
Like Imari, I had a background in science. I was pre-med and decided I hated being around hospitals with people complaining about stuff all the time. And then I was
in the wrong business.
Yeah, I was in the wrong business and had the wrong major.
Still are.
Yes, exactly. So I was actually fortunate enough to be in the Bay Area, so I got into the .com as soon as it really erupted back in 1997. And I've been in the internet for some time. Prior to this job at Viacom, I was in another entertainment company, which was...
He actually burst the bubble.
I was actually in another entertainment company, which was quite interesting. I was working for World Wrestling Entertainment. And I was responsible for their digital distribution of content, primarily actually focused in Europe, and then did some stuff in Latin America. And it was my relationships in LATAM that got me this job, because certainly my non-Spanish speaking ability certainly didn't help me with that, but that's my background.
A guy named Rene Rodriguez doesn't speak Spanish?
You go figure, what an oxymoron.
Well, I used to be a lawyer, and somehow I'm sitting here. I don't know. It happened like in a lapse of 10 years. I mean, I moved from being a lawyer to being a buyer.
Well,
but I think that the business is like really, I mean, if you like the business, you will feel entrapped.
You guys talk way too much. There's some women out here who want to ask some questions.
His number?
My question is more on the social media aspect. So you talked about also the timing with mobile devices, computers, and the pads, et cetera. You know, my question is, what is your suggestion for starting off more of a smaller business in the fitness industry and having the different messages for the different platforms? Because that's the challenge, really, trying to figure out the timing and so forth. That's kind of what we're trying to figure out right now.
Again, you need to define your objectives,
Right.
find what your right target, and come up with a strategy. And depends of, again, if it's for women, for men, for kids, for millennials, etc., and understand if it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Wattpad, which is a really cool stuff that kids write books and share. And then yesterday I saw a book that had 20 million shares inside that app. And so you need to craft exactly what's your message and where. Not necessarily needs to be Facebook, not necessarily need to be Twitter, could be Instagram, and or could be YouTube. You need to find out exactly where your audience is sitting and where you're going to consume your social media, and then come up with a strategy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think the other thing that's important as well is really understanding, for example, take Facebook and understand how it works. Just because you open up a page and just because you acquire likes doesn't mean that you're reaching all of those people,
exactly.
Correct? So you need to understand how that platform works and understand the mechanics behind it. And if it's really about reach to try to promote, then you're probably going to have to spend some money in order to acquire some likes and acquire customers, at least on Facebook, right? The other thing that I would add is that I'd like to say that there's a real science behind the storytelling behind it, because there's really not. I mean, there are some things that, no, what I mean by that is like, it's more important to have an authentic voice, and the voice in your tonality in your page, right? Because then you can just experiment and play. I mean, you're going to find out in real time, you know, what kind of content people are reacting to, right? And so the smarter you get with that, you know, the more efficient you're going to become on that platform. So I would also say, you know, focus on the tonality of what kind of personality you want to come across with on. Well, be more real, but are you funny? Are you serious in tone? Are you, you know, slapstick in tone? I mean, that's what I'm talking about as well, is find a voice, right?
Yeah. George Bernard Shaw said, "Be yourself, everybody else is already taken." We'll try to sneak in one or two more quick questions. I know we're keeping you from lunch, so we'll try to make it really short questions and really quick answers. Okay.
Yes. Hi, you briefly mentioned using content aggregation for MTV, and I was just wondering if you guys had any experiences you wanted to share on capturing user-generated content and cool examples you've used to create brand experiences with that?
Well, we've only done it in a limited fashion right now. So we've used Rebel Mouse, a company, I actually don't know where the company's based, but we used small little social aggregation across comedy sites, the MTV site as well, and Nick. And we just noticed that it started generating a lot of activity and page views. So, you know, what I'm specifically referring to is a plan that we're going to go into for next fiscal year, and a much more aggressive product that's really integrated into the fabric of our CMS on our sites, so that our producers are actually not only just uploading video, but they're actually thinking maybe first producing pages with social aggregation. So we've tried it, and we're moving that direction.
One more quick question.
My question is more about content. Do you think reality is going to continue to, basically its popularity and to permeate the digital space? I'm asking for a friend.
MTV.
Well, Discovery too.
Reality.
Yeah, I guess reality works really well. I mean, if you just take a look at the Jersey Shore franchise, right? So in the UK, you have Geordie Shore. In Spain, you've got Gandia Shore. We are now going to be launching Acapulco Shore. So reality, go figure, right? I mean, like, is it really Mexican or a tourist? You don't know, right?
But I still think that it's about the right platform and the right, the platform that it works on. I mean, reality in some platforms it doesn't perform so well. In mobile, of course, doesn't work. In over the top is not the best, the best pick. But of course, in linear, it is.
Yeah.
So I think it depends. I mean, every kind of content has a place. It's just find the right story and the right platform to.
Well, for example, for Discovery, we consider Deadliest Catch as a reality show, and works really, really good. And that kind of thing that is not only a couple of guys sitting in a house, and it's something else to tell about and learn about, I believe reality is going to work. But we need to, again, there needs to be a really strong story on as a basement of the show.
Well, this timer's been sitting on 0 for about 4 or 5 minutes, so I appreciate your indulgence in allowing us to go a little bit longer. Great round of applause for a great presentation.